Few things hit harder in the world of TV than the death of a popular character. Death can be a fantastic way of furthering a plot, adding wrinkles to other characters, or providing a definitive ending to the arc of the person who lost their life. The following 10 performers all requested that their alter egos bite the dust, and for the most part their wishes were granted. And so with that in mind, I'm Ellie with What Culture, here with actors who demanded to be killed off of popular TV shows. Adewale, Akinnuoye, Agbaje in Lost. The show that had everyone questioning everything, Lost remains a strong talking point amongst TV lovers even though it wrapped up in 2010. The island was full of memorable characters, but few had as big an impact in such a short space of time than Mr. Echo. Portrayed by British actor Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaje, Echo was a Nigerian former drug lord turned priest who ended up stuck on the island after Flight 815 went down. The strong and silent type, Echo became a firm favourite as he was the one most comfortable with life on the island. The irony of that statement is that in real life, Akinnuoye Agbaje was far from content. The actor had moved out to Hawaii to film the show but really didn't like being there. He wanted to move back home to London and so asked for his character to be removed from the show. Producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse gave in to his demands for the character to receive a tragic death, having him brutally murdered by the smoke monster. Christ, tell us how you really feel about him leaving. Wesley in The Vampire Diaries. People pretended that they watched The Vampire Diaries for the gripping plot or the compelling characters, but they actually just stuck around for those sexy Salvatore brothers. They can bite our necks any day. Damon, played by Ian Somerhalder, and Stefan, played by Paul Wesley, became cultural icons across the show's 171 episodes. In the show's big finale, Damon got to live out the rest of his life happily with Elena. As for Stefan, well, the younger brother elects to sacrifice himself to save the town of Mystic Falls, reuniting with his loved ones in the afterlife. It was a shocking moment for fans of the show, and it gets even more so once you know that Wesley himself suggested this fate. The actor wanted Stefan to suffer for his actions in life and thought that death was the only consequence he deserved. He even told 17, "I was very happy he died." Stefan's demise makes a lot of sense in storyline as well as giving the noble character a worthy end. Plus, it happened in the series finale, so it's not like Wesley missed out on any paychecks. Emma Caulfield in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Another death to take place in a series finale, another show with the word vampire in the name. Coincidence? Yeah, probably. The massively influential Buffy the Vampire Slayer went out in style. Chosen featured a huge battle sequence between Buffy and her gang of assorted weirdos and the first evil. The fight claims many victims, including several uber vamps Spike and Anya Jenkins. First introduced in the show's third season, Anya became a firm favourite, especially when romantically paired with Xander. Unfortunately for the longtime character, his beloved gets sliced open by a vampire in this episode's giant fight. Emma Caulfield, the actor behind Anya, actually approached series creator and dodgy man Joss Whedon about bringing the character to an end. At this point, there was a chance the show could have continued, but Caulfield was ready to move on. "I was all for it," she said of the character's death. "I thought that would be a poetic way to have her end, sacrificing herself for people she could never understand. We couldn't have put it better ourselves." Aidan Turner in Being Human. Usually, it's never a good sign when a role gets recast on a TV show. However, in the case of British supernatural drama Being Human, it might have been one of the best things to ever happen to it. Aidan Turner took over the role of vampire John Mitchell on the show after the pilot episode. Turner really made the most of this chance, helping the show become extremely popular. His stock as an actor immediately went on the rise, which is ultimately what killed off his character on Being Human. Turner got the role of Keeley in the Hobbit series of films and announced he was leaving the show. He wanted Mitchell to be killed off, thinking it would bring his arc to a satisfying end. And so that's exactly what happened. After going on a massacre, Mitchell asks his friend George, a werewolf, to kill him out of mercy. George obliges, like any decent friend would. Damn, between this and The Hobbit, Aidan Turner's characters don't have the best of luck, do they? Jessalyn Gilsig in Vikings. As much as we wish it didn't, sometimes real life can get in the way of a great TV show. That's what happened to the History Channel's axe-swinging, skull-crushing, mead-drinking extravaganza Vikings. More specifically, it's what happened to the character of Siggy Haraldsson. The wife of Earl Haraldsson, Siggy eventually grows incredibly fond of series lead Ragnar Lothbrok and his family. So much so that when Ragnar's children are in danger, she sacrifices herself to save them. She pulls them out of a freezing lake in the show's third season, only to succumb come to the water herself. The death was a tragic one, leaving many fans mourning the beloved character. Actor Jessalyn Gilsig revealed that she requested her character take the plunge so she could focus on matters outside of acting. She was facing some personal issues and felt that she wasn't giving her family enough support. This led to her deciding to move out of Ireland, where Vikings was filmed, thus ending her tenure on the show. Frank Dillane in Fear the Walking Dead. Fear the Walking Dead first aired in 2015 and served as a prequel to AMC's monster zombie hit. The narrative began during the early days of the apocalypse, but it has since caught up to its older sibling with several stories running parallel. It also features main show star Morgan, which is great because Lenny James is never a bad thing. Another character on the show is Nick Clark, as played by Frank Dillane. Well, that should actually be was Nick Clark, because he got himself shot in the show's 4th season. What did he go and do that for? According to showrunner Andrew Chambliss, it was because Dillane wanted to pursue other opportunities. He said, "One of the first things we were tasked with when we came on to run season 4 was to really find a story that would give Nick a fitting send-off." To be fair, they definitely achieved this, as Nick's death was a really surprising moment on the show. As for Dillane, he got to star in a series alongside Claire Danes and Tom Hiddleston, so it was a win for everyone. John Francis Daley in Bones. For all the corpses that turn up at the Jeffersonian, very few main characters on Bones have actually bitten the dust over the years. Vincent Nigel Murray, the world's most annoying intern, famously met his end at the hands of a sniper, and the other major casualty on the show was the team's resident psychiatrist, Lance Sweets. The lovable shrink became entranced in the show's DNA, which is why it came as such a shock when he was gunned down in the premiere episode of season 10. Why didn't he just use his telekinesis to block the bullet? Wait, that's psychic, not psychiatrist. All the mind powers in the world couldn't have saved Sweets, as his real-life counterpart actually requested that he snuff it. John Francis Daley was given the opportunity to direct the 2015 film Vacation, and Bones simply got in the way. Much like the man who killed his on-screen persona, Daley ruthlessly murdered his time on the show. Julian Glover in Game of Thrones. With the astronomical frequency of character deaths on Game of Thrones, you'd think that an actor wouldn't get the chance to actually ask to be killed off. However, that's the exact situation Grand Maester Pycelle found himself in on the HBO juggernaut. Pycelle was one of the most powerful men in all of Westeros as a member of the Small Council and trusted advisor to several kings. He, like most other powerful people in Thrones, meets a brutal end when he is repeatedly stabbed by his replacement Qyburn's little birds. Actor Julian Glover must have been oddly thrilled to read the page in the script when this happened, as he was not having a good time playing the corrupt old man. He was unhappy that his part on the show had been severely reduced and that he was constantly belittled by Cersei. In an interview, he remarked, "I went to them, the producers, and said, look, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not interesting to go on doing this, and what's going to happen to him? A pretty boss way to quit a show, all things said and done." Patrick Dempsey in Grey's Anatomy. If you've ever heard the words Grey's Anatomy used in that order, then you've also definitely heard the word McDreamy shortly thereafter. Unless you've only ever heard of the 19th century medical textbook, in which case you must be extremely confused right now. McDreamy was the nickname given to Derek Shepherd, one of the leading figures on the hit show across its first 11 seasons. He was extremely popular, somewhat down to the strong writing of his character, but mostly because he was really hot. Fans' McDreams were shattered when Derek met his end in a car crash. Meredith Grey was even pregnant with his child at the time. How could Shonda Rhimes do this to us? Well, actually, it was actor Patrick Dempsey who did this to us. He was the one who said he wanted out, actually saying that he wished he'd left the show sooner. It was a very time-consuming gig, and the star just wanted to spend a little more time with his family. But what about your family on the show, Patrick? What about Meredith and your unborn child? What about them? Okay, breathe. It's just a TV show. Dean Norris in Breaking Bad. On a show stuffed with great characters, it's a real testament to actor Dean Norris that Hank Schrader stood out. A member of the DEA, Hank was often held up as a mirror to his brother-in-law Walter White, and is one of the many people with lives that Walt is jealous of. He starts out as an obnoxious jock, but viewers learn to love his more vulnerable traits as the series went on. Then, in the show's final season, Hank came face-to-face with Jack Welker. After a brave last stand against the neo-Nazis, Hank makes one last defiant speech before Jack murders him right in front of Walt. It's a fantastic scene and a heroically fitting end to his story. In reality, the reason why this happened was far less exciting. Norris got cast in Under the Dome, so needed to leave Breaking Bad to go film that. He asked the showrunners to kill him off in the first part of the show's last run, to which they said no. Thankfully, that season was split in two anyway, so Dean had his cake and ate it too, and we got to see the most badass departure in Breaking Bad history.